I love coffee.
And we are live.
Thank you. So we are back here in Ways and Means. Next up, we have the Greer Amendment. If you would like to join us, Representative Greer. Thank you. Are you able to send Representative Greer a Zoom invite so that he could share his screen while he talked us through the amendment?
Oh, that is a good one. I don't actually have it pulled up online.
Oh, so that would be great if you could do that on one of your devices. Thank you.
You don't have to do that. I'm not sure I know how.
Representative Greer and I have matching laptops, so I thought we have greater technical capacity than you, Representative Conlon. Are you
I know.
Representative Conlon?
See it too.
Thank you,
Technical
Phil.
skills.
No problem, no.
Can you download?
It is also on the calendar, folks, if you, and on our page.
There's two.
And if you beat me there, please let me know.
Or did you go and look?
Folks, you can look at it on the calendar as well.
On my site.
I was gonna say, could you send it to my personal email
Oh,
by chance? No, I was gonna say, because I don't do anything legislative on my personal laptop, but I can.
Oh, okay.
I can forward it to myself just real.
Okay, great, thank you.
So-
You could use your iPad as well, but we're not making that.
Oh, okay, wait, actually, if we could, I could do it, I could share from,
Whatever device you want to use.
I'm not gonna get in.
That Word document is truck.
Preview share.
Perfect. So you are co-host, you can share your own screen.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. Now I got it. There we go. No, that's all, I'm sorry.
These are our favorite moments in the day, don't worry about it.
Oh, actually, I think I did it. Okay. Right, and then I just share it. I don't know why the audio won't go off on this. Hoping it doesn't interfere too much. Is it out?
Yay!
Oh my God, I just learned how to do that. Okay, awesome. Okay, so I had printed it out, so my apologies.
Oh,
How can we turn this off?
it's where you can't hear it. It's not echoing.
It's
It's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's just gonna drive me a little, but that's okay. Okay, so this is a two-part amendment. Thank you all so much for taking the time to consider this. The first part I want to go over is the J1A8 section of the bill. And so after it says all grade levels from kindergarten through grade 12 We want to add at the end, including use of a supervisory union structure where necessary to maintain existing tuition structures. The reason for this is that when discussing this with the larger part of my constituents and other folks, I think that while we're considering consolidating districts and creating scale, I think that we have to find a way to preserve these union structures that encompass existing tuition structures in our state. And I just have severe questions concerning small and medium-sized independent schools, which my district serves, in particular, which is in North Bennington. Yes,
I hear you fine. Could you speak up
just a little bit. I just don't want to.
It's not, it's not. No, you're fine. It was
Oh,
fine.
okay.
It was working fine.
Okay.
We weren't getting any feedback at all.
Okay.
You were good, but some of us, many of us have hearing.
Raise the volume.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to not have this bother me too
Where
much.
are you?
Okay,
I also have hearing challenges.
Oh.
that's okay. I'm a soft speaker.
They're
screen
new.
anymore.
They arrived
Oh,
last
I'm
night.
not. I do have. Just
Project.
go back. Okay. So going back, just trying to preserve existing tuition structures where they're at, taking into the historical accounts that we have in our region. And really what this is doing is tasking the district boundary subcommittee with taking that into consideration as part of the intent of this legislation. We're not trying to divide up communities that have done this for decades or really centuries at this point in my case, but just, trying to, have some middle ground here. We're also one of only 2 districts that does elementary school choice, which is one reason I've been really interested in the school closure aspect of the elementary schools, which did get into the bill and I was very appreciative of, but I just feel like the independent school piece is missing from that. And it just concerns me. In terms of consolidation efforts in the past, we did become an independent school in North Bennington in 2013. And then once Act 46 went in place in 2015, we did our best in our region to consolidate. And I think that this would take it a step potentially too far and that we may lose what we have designed already that's worked well in our community. So just trying to take that into account and that we follow the public tuitioning statutes that already exist. And that our reorganization's uniquely configured in the grand scheme of things. I won't take up too much time on that. I'll move on to the second part of the amendment, which is Section 27A, which would be an additional section to the bill. And this really governs tuition payment in school operation. And I broke this down very simply because it's a longer section. But in subsection A of 27A, that's going to be hitting to the point about the unique tuition structures, longstanding history between our different governance systems that we have. And we hope that the subcommittee will take under consideration that having 2 different operating entities merging together would be a significant challenge. And we see that as potentially not the best situation. Subsection B1 speaks to the village of North Bennington and an example from, of course, I'm speaking from my perspective here, how we approve our town budget, we approve our tuition dollars, and the other systems that take place in our district. And we want to try and preserve that as fast as we can while still meeting the goals of this bill. And then subsection B2 is what we find most pressing because we provide all of our students in our district a creative, unique, and vibrant learning environment at the village school. And we really want to preserve that. And I wouldn't be here asking you guys this if I didn't feel like it was necessary on my community. I'm happy to explain a little bit more and elaborate, but thank you all for letting me speak today.
Can you talk through the take effect parts a little bit more?
Yeah, so from my understanding, the take effect part is virtually the same from what was approved in the bill. The only difference is that in the 16, right here, section 27A, that's being added to it. I wish I had legislative counsel here.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Hi. Oh my God. Why did you walk in? There you go. Could you potentially elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, that's St. James Office of Legislative Counsel. What's the question?
The implementation dates, the effective dates.
I
Are they-
believe, Brett, could you scroll up just a tiny bit? Yes, they would take effect on July 1.
I'm trying to figure out how that's different from the,
Because we added a whole section.
yes, it's only that new section.
Yes,
that's
yes,
taken.
yes.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sorry.
Yes,
So to
Representative Holcomb.
confirm the dates of implementation, we're not expecting you to finish a special ed report by July 1, 25.
No, this.
Okay, just making sure the dates.
The
are
way this works for
Yeah.
an amendment with this many sections is it's easier to just pull out the entire subsection and add a new date in
Okay,
than to do instances. And so the only thing that's changing in subsection B of the effective date section is adding the language that Rep. Greer is putting forward, because it's a brand new section, so you have to account for it in the effective date section. No other effective dates are changed.
Thank you. Representative Higley.
I'm Chair, I don't know how you like to have the motion presented, but a lot of times it's presented in the affirmative. It, you know, I'm going to take a vote in that regard rather than in the negative. If that's the case, I would make a motion that you approve.
I think we probably need to do questions first. Before.
Pending questions.
And we actually also don't do motions on straw polls. I hear what you're trying to get at, that you feel good about this. Thank you.
Okay.
I believe Representative Holcomb had a question, but maybe
well, I have a question and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this because I feel like you must have gotten a very different memo from constituents than I got, because what I'm hearing is severe concern around affordability. And I know that in 2014, North Bennington did decide to close its public school and open the village school as a private school. And now you tuition, you know, I think at this point, I checked the numbers this morning, I think something like 36% of the students actually don't go to the village school anymore. And what's happened is the number of kids in the village school has declined. And we have picked up the cost of educating students in a private school in New York, religious schools, a whole bunch of other schools, bringing down the scale at the village school, but substantially increasing the cost. And when I looked at it this morning and using data from the Agency of Education, you're spending about $2,000 more a kid now than you did when your school was still a public school. So what you're asking here is that we freeze for time immemorial a system that demonstrably is increasing the cost, not just to your town, but as the Secretary of Education, Armando Villaseca, predicted at the time, it's actually increasing the burden on every taxpayer across the state. So I'm just trying to understand why you would ask for a specific carve out that freezes a system that is demonstrably more expensive than it was prior to 2014.
Because we don't view that 2,000 additional dollars that we spend per pupil, we don't view that as a burden. We view that as enhancing opportunity in our district, and we view that as enhancing the educational outcomes of our students in the district. I believe you are
Funded by everybody else in the state.
And we would be fine. That's why we're working on this foundational formula, because we would like to have that local option to still fund it at our own local level going ahead.
I think you're not hearing my point. My point is if those 53 students were at the village school instead of being tuitioned to New York or other schools, other private schools, that would be another $500,000 that could bring down cost. So I'm trying to understand. I mean, at the time, the rationale that was given, the actual quote was that the folks who wanted this change hoped that liberating the school from the restrictions of public education would help keep it afloat in years to come. And there'd be the possibility of fundraising, for example, and of attracting students from neighboring communities whose parents might be willing to pay tuition. That was the rationale for privatization. What we found is it didn't keep it afloat. It's actually lost enrollment. They could be private fundraising, which would violate the intent of the Brigham decision. And it doesn't seem to be helping. And they haven't been able to attract a number of students from surrounding communities that they thought they would as a result of privatization. What they have done is increase. Really opposed asking other communities to make very, very hard choices. I really just feel this isn't the way to go. So I'm being very transparent with you.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you. I think Representative Brannigan was,
I have a question. I'm hoping it's an easy one. How do we define grades? In my history, like on sub 2 of section 2, operating school for all students in the grade or grades, that used to mean just kindergarten through 8th grade. But I think he means high school kids too. So how are we defining that? Is it defined anywhere in law? Grade or
Representative Greer,
grades?
do you have an answer to that?
I would defer probably to Beth on that, but I don't believe there is a distinction.
I believe, again, that's James Office of Legislative Counsel, I believe, Greg, if you scroll up a little bit, it's important to read it in context, so. Nothing in this section, but you're good, thank you. Nothing in this section shall be construed to restrict or repeal, et cetera. Of the ability of a school district that as of the effective date of this section provides for the education of all resident students in one or more grades. So that's whatever grades that school district is operated, is that organized to operate or provide for the education of the resident students on. So that's gonna vary depending on the district. Could be K to 6, K to 8, K to 12, 7 to 12.
Whatever they're set up. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Representative Muslin.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in, Bill. I follow your argument fairly clearly, and I think it's well articulated. I have a concern that while what we're trying to do with H 454 is find some consistency that makes sense. Your amendment, particularly if that thread is picked up by others, would tend to atomize our approach to problem solving. I can't support it for that reason, although I appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
I guess I'm a little confused in that I thought, according to what we've looked at, everything, tuition student would, under the foundation formula, would get the 15,033 plus the various weights depending upon the characteristics of those students. And that would be applied to the student wherever they went, whether they went to the public school or to a tuition school. So I understand you'd like to make sure that that is respected, but I'm not sure that that speaks to the concern or the financial concern that Representative Holcomb is.
I'd be happy to explain more. I mean, literally, they used to send all their kids to one school, which allowed them to have scale. And when you have scale, you have fewer lower per pupil costs. By choosing to pay tuition and not operate a public school, they actually eroded the scale of that school. Instead of having, I mean, I think at the time it had something like 110 students, it's lost enrollment since then. But they also picked up costs of tuitioning a lot of other kids. The challenge is if those kids were all going to the same school, it would have more scale. It's the marginal cost of those other tuition students is on top of the cost of operating the village school, which is still operating. But the village school has space to accommodate all those other kids who are tuition. So the financial effect of bringing those kids back into the village school would be lower cost for everybody and broader opportunities for everybody in that village school. Instead, by spreading out the dollars like grass seed, what they've done is raise cost and reduced opportunities in one place, but created a broader menu. But it does cost more because if those kids were in the village school, the per pupil cost at that village school would be lower. And that is subsidized in our shared system by all of us.
So you're saying that might affect the 15,033 base amount?
No, I'm saying that the 15 whatever plus
Whatever.
that we're now sending to our talk about schools, I got them here, but that we're sending to the Sacred Heart School of St. Francis de Sales. There's looks like there's 4 kids going there. That's a total of I could do the math, but it's significant. It starts to add up. Those kids, that money could have been going to the village school, and that would have brought down the per pupil cost of the village school. And they wouldn't have to add a teacher or anything to accommodate those kids in the village school because they already have the capacity to do so. So every kid who's not in that building is extra cost. And at some point, we have to have a conversation about how much excess cost we can afford at a state. As some of the agency used to say, you can't have a 28-course buffet, pay $3 and expect the food to taste good. And everybody is struggling to be able to afford their schools. We're not giving kids good opportunities, but we are paying a heck of a lot for it. That's a hard conversation. And we need to figure out, one of the reasons we started with our historical academies was scale. It was about having scale. That's why we started. It wasn't to give kids options in, Eleuthera, which we pay, or Sweden, or London, England. It was about making sure every kid had access to a good school. And the more we break that effort to get scale, the more we're all paying, even as some of these schools starve and struggle to provide opportunities to kids. And I just think we have to have that conversation.
I'm going to take a brief intermission, not actually from the YouTube, just to ask Representative Maslin, I've had a request in my email for you to move your egg cartons. I've heard they're interfering with the microphones.
Oh,
Thank you.
what a bummer.
Oh,
All right. How did we get it right here? No?
Sometimes you put them on walls for sound baffling. I think they're actually quite absorbent of sound.
Oh. Yeah, I bet they are.
Yeah, okay.
Glad to know.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions for Representative Greer? Okay. I think this bill has been constructed very carefully over years, if not months, and this is a very significant amendment to bring at the last minute. And if we allow carve-outs for every individual district, we will not have a bill any longer, unfortunately. So I'm going to need to vote no on this in the straw poll, though I appreciate you bringing your community's voices into the room, albeit the last minute. So folks ready for a straw poll?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of this amendment? All those opposed to the amendment? I can't see you're in favor. You're in favor. Okay.
So it's 1-10.
Yes. Okay. Representative Higley, you're opposed?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you also.
Enjoy your time down in the education committee.
How do I end this?
Just close it all up. You're good.
Thank you very much.
See you guys on the floor.
Thank you. Awkward.
Yeah.
For work.
Thank you very much. At some moment, Representative Canfield's going to get up and leave the room. It's not anything anyone said. We actually have another bill on the floor that
Sure it was.
Representative, yeah,
Something I said.
okay. So when the trust bill is up on the floor, Bill's gonna go downstairs. So with that, we have one more amendment that we definitely have right now. Representative Wood, if you'd like to join us, thank you. So I have at the final moment also added my name to Representative Wood's amendment and really appreciate.
And you're gonna have to explain that part.
I will, but I also really appreciate the language change that you're bringing to us. I think all hands make respectful work, so thank you very much.
Good morning, Teresa.
Just give us a second to pull it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I believe it's on our committee.
It's not on the calendar.
Elle's doing
Not on the calendar.
today.
I just want to make sure I've got you.
We're gonna all take a moment to find the amendments, and if we can't, I will just forward it to everyone. How does that feel?
That sounds.
No, it's not Galfetti.
No.
Beth, can you send it to everyone?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
It's called the Galfetti Amendment.
Not called the Galfetti.
No,
No, that's unusual, right?
Can you ask Galfetti to come up? But invite Galfetti though? Thank you.
Is it, I'm so sorry, is it going on?
Beth is sending it to us and eventually it will arrive on our committee page, but that
All I
might,
need to know. That's all I need to know.
because Elle is operating with Sorcia's system and Sorcia.
So fine, I just wanted to know.
Special Sorcia system. Oh, the keyboard doesn't work.
That
That's
is
hard.
complicated.
Very hard.
Chris, can you find IT? Thank you so much. Does everyone have it? Just it sounds delightful.
Thank you.
Has arrived for me. Has it arrived for everyone else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you laughing at me?
I'm not looking at you.
I was laughing at something.
In the email, yeah.
That's great.
Email?
Email, it's in your email.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bishop Fold on new ones. And also my last name. Yes.
Did I? You did. We don't need to, we can vote without my last name change, but if you could change it for the floor, that would be delightful. Thank you.
Oh, just missing an eye. Well, one actually.
It gets into funny places, that I sometimes. Is everyone ready?
So.
Wonderful. Representative Wood, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, thank you. Teresa Wood from House Human Services. Thank you so much for taking up this amendment. And it really changes nothing but removing labels of referring to children in special education or with disabilities as high cost, et cetera. And so similar to what y'all did for English language learners, where you just assess them as level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. You know, we came up with a very creative category A, B, and C. So that really is all that our amendment does. And it is offered by 9 of the 11 representatives in my committee. And it really is just to try to further reduce stigma for children with disabilities. That's it.
Thank you for that very much. Yeah, Representative Holcomb.
That's a lovely recommendation, so I appreciate your thinking of it that way. I think we were looking through the finance lens.
Yeah, it's totally understandable.
Thank you for bringing the humans to the numbers.
Yeah, well, and I have to give full credit to Representative Donahue, who originally highlighted this and asked our committee to consider it. And so that's eagle-eyed Anne, that's what we call her.
And then on the same section, I asked them also to add some language on my behalf, because in conversations between Professors Colby and Baker and the Agency of Education and Joint Fiscal Office, we had not sort of perfectly aligned with the words, not designations, but sort of categories of special education costs in the language that we had in the bill. And so I asked to update that. We have an updated memo from Professors Colby and Baker that are in that folder with all of the other documents on JFO's website that adds this category. And Representative Wood, you don't have to sit there anymore if you don't want to.
Okay, great, thank you.
Julia, can you add more better words? I think I used up a lot of words yesterday.
Sure, do you want me to?
Yeah, that would be great if you can, please.
Well,
Thank you so much, Representative Wood.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Hi, I'm Julia Richter, Joint Fiscal Office. So by a little bit of context that the chair just applied, we reached out to the Agency of Education to work on cost estimates corresponding with the special education weights and learned that there was one category that was not included in the original memo, developmental delay, that the Agency of Education has as one of the highest, if not the highest, populations of identified students. So we worked with Colby and Baker to put that into the memo for their work to reflect that, to reflect how the Agency of Education identifies students with special education needs. Colby and Baker did have it in their model, they just didn't have it in the original memo. So they submitted an updated memo with developmental delay, which would fall into the category B, which you were previously calling medium cost disabilities. Because that is a higher cost need within the medium cost disability. The category B, that would require an increased weight for the category B to align with their work. So the other piece of the language that Chair Kornheiser was mentioning was the inclusion of the category developmental delay in category B, and then an update of the weight to reflect the inclusion of that category.
Thank you. Any questions for Julia?
I'm
Yeah.
not sure. It's one question. Just category B, category A, B, C. Is there any magic to that term? I mean, we spent a lot of time wordsmithing, so I'm just curious if it has any other place. I know you're JFO and not Ledge Council, so, but just thinking about the term itself.
I have no.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
John Gray is not here today and Beth has left the room, but I did talk to, John Gray is who drafted the amendment originally, and then it was passed off to Beth. In speaking to John about it yesterday and then Beth today, they both feel like this has really a lot of integrity and alignment with the original memo. And the categories are, they thought, I don't know if John would frame it as an improvement, because I don't think he's supposed to put value judgments on things, but
Say it works.
yeah, it works. I would even call it artful, actually, personally. Yeah. Representative Maslin.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you. It's maybe a Teresa question.
Teresa's not here anymore.
I can see that. Room can generally answer probably, maybe Representative Holtz, but I'm fully in support of the language. I understand what it does. It's all very straightforward. Developmental delay, would assume is assessed, within the grades or something like that, based on metrics that are pretty well understood. It's not a made up thing. It's something we should wisely include. And if that's also, then I'm very much in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, yeah.
I guess I would just say to that point, I'm not an expert in special education identification.
Yeah.
I will say that when we reached out to AOE for the purpose of estimating this, they came back with there will be a significant number of students that are identified as special education that are not included in the categories that you are requesting because the definition doesn't fit in there.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, questions, theories on this one?
Motion.
We don't need motions on shovels. Okay, thank you so much.
But I'm in favor of it.
Great, thank you. All those in favor of the Wood, et cetera, amendment? All those opposed? Okay, 10-0. Yes, thank you. We are going to take a break and see if we have another amendment to hear.